You can obviously use like a basic RFM to understand where a customer is and what the value is of that customer to you.
If I go to the portal and I have asked like 50,000 questions, or I can't find the cancel button or the pause button, I'm just going to end up canceling it altogether because I'm just over it.
Love you, Mom, but like the worst sort of like techie person out there. So if like Mom can navigate it, they're doing a good job.
We care so much about acquiring that customer and getting them into that subscription and have that revenue in that moment, but then like we forget about the retention of that customer.
Hey friends, welcome to Above the Fold podcast. I'm your host, Jess Servion. We're going to be talking about everything in your customer's journey. You're going to learn things about customer experience, brand experience, and marketing secrets that help you drive your brand success. So stay tuned, buckle up, and let's get into the episode.
Welcome back to another episode of Above the Fold podcast with me, Jess. This week, I am in LA at ChargeX by Recharge, and I am joined by AJ Patel of U Beauty and Nikki Tooman of Sticky Digital. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
You know, I'm really excited about both of these baddies being on the show today because AJ is the SVP of Global Growth at U Beauty, but you have this dope background at Unilever Prestige and Murad, which is so fucking cool. And Nikki is also a baddie in her own right because she is the CEO and co-founder of Sticky Digital, which is a retention marketing agency. And you know, we love retention around here.
We love retention.
So I'd love to just get into it and talk about what like U Beauty is. AJ, do you want to like answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. U Beauty is a luxury skincare brand. We were founded around 5 years ago. We have a technology called siren capsule technology, which basically allows us to utilize lower level of actives to treat your skin. So it's a delivery mechanism, and there's lots of different applications for the technology, but we specifically use it for skincare, so it's awesome.
Cool. And specifically to women and men?
It's gender neutral.
Okay.
I use U Beauty.
I love that.
My husband uses U Beauty.
Yeah.
We love a gender neutral skincare brand, right? Nikki, you are a big fan of it as well, right?
It's on subscription. She shows up at my door every 8 weeks, and I switch out my product. So I just reordered my Mantle skin conditioning wash. Should be showing up by the time I get home from this conference.
Right? So what made U Beauty confident that the products were actually suitable for subscription?
Yeah, the brand itself has super high retention rates. Having worked in analytics before at Unilever Prestige, you know, I looked at a multitude of brands. There was 8 brands in a portfolio when I was there. I think it's now up to 10. But looking at the kind of retention rates and customer replenishment cycles, you know, we saw that there was definitely an opportunity for us to have a subscription model, and it's been a great success for us. You know, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, like the life cycle of a beauty product in general, right? It's like, it's something, it's a routine. It's something you have to constantly use. But I also think that what's really important about beauty too, that anybody listening who's in skincare or any sort of health and wellness, is the consistency.
Yes.
And Nikki, that like specifically for you, because you obviously like work with U Beauty and like retention, like how do you even think about like marketing that consistency and getting that customer to continuously be in that life cycle?
Yeah, it's interesting because with U Beauty, their hero product, the resurfacing compound, which I also love and I use every single day, it's also to help like correct sunspots and like, you know, better your skin in that way, but it's not something that happens overnight. So you need to like consistently use it over a time period. And so I think part of this is also educating the end user that like you need to use it every single day in order for this to have like ultimate effects on you. And so like to use that like skin correctness and stuff like that. So like that is very easy because it lends itself into sort of like that educational piece that like you have to use it every single day. Obviously some of their other products you don't necessarily need to use every single day, but like the suite of it together, like once you start using it, like you become obsessed, as I am. As I am.
I mean, I think that's really important about like the education piece of it
Yeah.
in like the life cycle, right? I actually work with a skincare brand, like a different one. Obviously, we're gonna say agnostic because we're here for you, beauty. but like even thinking about that life cycle and that retention cycle of that customer, what I find is so interesting is that you have to show like social proof, right? Of like,
Yep.
oh, okay, the neck cream like really works, and like here's your before and after. But, and this might be a hot take for both of you guys, do you actually think that that social proof really moves the needle for a customer? Or do you think it's more like, okay, I would love
do.
just
Yeah.
I do.
talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit more, because I don't know. I'm kind of like agnostic on both sides of it.
I'm a huge tester, and we've definitely tested BNAs before
Yep.
in all of our retention efforts. And when we do show BNAs, it definitely helps, drive customer conversion and retention. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important. I think that, we are also looking at other ways that we can show social proof on our website.
Yes.
So we're signing on with some new vendors there, and it's really great. I think that it's probably one of the most important things outside of obviously the education aspect, and obviously making sure that the product is staying in the customer's shelf. I think that's also really important. So we have beautiful packaging, and I think that that's kind of sometimes a miss that skincare brands make, is that it gets lost in this huge box of
Yeah.
different products, and you forget about it. So if a customer is not utilizing the product on a consistent basis, they're not going to return and buy more product in the future. So.
Totally. And I agree with you, like on the social proof and like those aspects, right? Of like, not just like on the product and packaging, but when you think about like the social proof, the before and after, I think it like really does matter. But what I find interesting in like the life cycle is like, you can't just keep using the same photos, you know what I mean? Of like the same people. So it's like, it is a little bit of like the education and like education on the consistency and like utilizing these products with these products and do these things, but then like maybe even doing additional content
Yep.
rather than like still image.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
You know?
and I think Beauty has actually done a really great job. Like AJ said, they test a lot across the board. And so there's even been testing behind like using even models in photography versus using like products and like
Yes.
stuff like that. And like it's really the psychology for the customer. And so although like a model image per se isn't necessarily social proof, but it is a way to sort of like see beautiful skin on somebody, and it sort of like works with the psychology of a customer and sort of like if you want to try this product because of what that model looks like. So I think like it is sort of like all of those things layered together that makes it impactful. So maybe it's not like the one thing, although the BNAs perform the best. The BNAs perform the best.
I feel like I need to go buy this B&A now.
It does work the best, but I think like the other piece of it is like, those other layers of like seeing it on with a model, or seeing like an actual, they do like a series of emails where it's basically like using skincare as makeup. And so showing people and how you layer that on. And so I think it's like all of these things together that really is like a testimonial, if you will, in its own right.
Yeah.
And also post-purchase, we send review emails to our customers.
Yes.
I think that's really important, is to have those reviews from customers, and authentic imagery also from customers too.
I agree. Yeah, the UGC
Yeah.
of it. I think you're both like, the strategy of it is absolutely correct, because it is the psychology of the buyer, right? It's
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna buy it because, like let's just take like Revlon and L'Oreal, like ads in, for years, right? And you see these beautiful models, and I'm gonna go pick up that red lipstick because I see this model using it, but then what does that look like on me?
Yep.
Right? And it's like, but it's educating that customer throughout the journey.
Yes.
Is the point.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And not just like at that acquisition touch point, and then remembering to do it throughout like retention.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So staying on life cycle, I'm curious about, obviously in skincare, there's like many different types of products, right? But how does your team think about the life cycle of the customer as well as launch cadence of products? Like at like what point are you like, okay, we're gonna start this, this new product or whatever, but like where do you think about that in your customer life cycle?
Yeah, I think the beauty of UBeauty is that we're very simple in terms of the regimen that we have. We don't have a ton of different serums. We have a singular serum, which is our resurfacing compound. And so, we try to obviously draw customers in with our hero products. So our duo is really the entry point for the brand. And then obviously there's complementary products with that too. When thinking about launches, we have different verticals that we're testing into. So we just launched a new fragrance in February, which has been great and fantastic and shown really great promise for the brand too. So we're really excited about that. But I think that we're trying to keep our skincare line itself very streamlined and look at additional opportunities outside of maybe the skincare vertical for new product launches in the future.
Yeah. Like body care.
Yeah, we have a ton of body products, a couple of them actually, but they're really strong performers for us. We have a neck and décolleté product, which is really fantastic and was launched last year. It's now actually our, I think, third best-selling product right now. So it's, those complementary products definitely help add cart value and obviously introduce consumers to new products.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when you think about it, it's like in your skincare routine, it's like you need an SPF, you need this moisturizer, you need these things, right? Like, but I think the skincare industry or beauty industry gets a little bit overwhelming. So it's like making it simple for your consumer to purchase other products, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's the other piece of it is like skincare is so complicated.
Yeah.
And I think UBeauty does a really great job of being like, you have this skin issue, this is your product. You have this skin issue, this is your product. You're trying to achieve this, like this is your product. Where I think there's a lot of skincare brands that like have so much product and like you as the customer, where do I start?
Dude.
Like, what am I looking at?
Yeah, so but again, going back to even like the education piece of it, right? Like it can become so overwhelming. I mean, like I'm trying to think of a brand right now that has like a lot of different products. I like all I'm imagining in my head is walking into Credo Beauty and like being overwhelmed.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like walking into a Sephora, but like a digital Sephora where you're literally like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I'm looking for an eyebrow pencil, but like, where is that?
Right.
And then you get hit up by like 15 things on the way.
Yeah. I mean, the last time I was in Sephora, truthfully, I was just like, oh, I need to get, re-up on my makeup, like my bronzer. And I ended up spending like $800, $900 because like all of a sudden I was just like, I need all of these things, It's just so, but then I go home and then I'm not using all of those products because I wasn't, educated on it or really got the right things for me.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I mean, in the digital world, actually, that's a really great question that's not even on here. How do you merchandise on your site effectively to drive not just conversions, but also like retention?
There's a couple of things that we do. One thing is we personalize our category pages. So based upon customers' past purchase, we'll dictate what we kind of showcase to them on site. In addition, we always put our hero products front and center for the customers. We have a new campaign running right now with Michelle Monahan from White Lotus. So we're really excited about that. So that's kind of front and center for us right now. And also she's our brand ambassador. So, we have a lot of proof with her too.
Yeah, for sure. How do you think about it, Nikki? Like
a lot of personalization on the website. Beauty quizzes and like being able to like feed the retention cycle that way, and like there are a couple of technologies today like a rebuy and a digio where like if you're collecting first party data you can personalize it with like rebuy on the site. Like it's really tying all of your tech stack together and like making it function really well. I was just talking to somebody about this last night. Like there's a lot of brands that have their web experience and like their retention funnel really fractured, and they don't really know how to tie all the things together. And the brands like UBeauty that can tie all of those things together and like really try to figure out how to make things function for a really great customer experience, like that's when you're getting the most out of it.
Yes.
But a lot of brands are like, oh, well, this thing functions as a pop-up, that's it. This thing functions as subscription and that's it. And like, you're not tying all of those pieces together.
Yeah.
And that's like where we find it to be the most fun.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love the fucking life cycle of a customer.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I think also testing is really important
Yes.
too. So we do like a lot of testing on our PDPs. You know, we have upsells on a PDP too, where we showcase other products which are complementary to the product on that page. And, you know, we've done a lot of testing on that too, to make sure that we have the correct products which we're recommending there.
Totally. I mean, like, that's the important thing, right? Like, it's testing, but it's also iterating, it's pivoting, it's making sure that like something works, because you could have a theory of like your customer's life cycle and think like, this is going to work and I know they're going to buy that product. But then what happens, your theory might not work, and you can't, and I see this a lot with a lot of brands that like I work with on like brand experience and customer experience stuff. It's like they're so, I know my customer and I know exactly what it is that they want, but I'm like, yeah, but you should really test that theory, because consumers' behavior changes so frequently, and especially in the beauty industry in particular, right? Like, we started the conversation about that social proof and being influenced to buy, but a TikToker could go online and be like, this U Beauty fragrance is the best, and all of a sudden they're gonna go, and now then you get like this influx of that to your website, which wasn't your initial acquisition. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like making up scenarios, but I just think it's so important to continuously test because consumer behavior just changes.
Yeah.
Well, and who that customer is to you as well. Like, somebody that is coming for a first time purchase that needs the education, that needs like all of these examples, or to see like the suite of your products. Does that person still need to see that on their fifth purchase? Like, what does that look like? And so I think even as the customer evolves with you, like, the messaging should also evolve with them.
Absolutely. Like, I wish that I could like cheers that statement, because I actually, one of the next questions I was going to ask was, what have you both learned? What have you both learned about the timing of reorders and subscription engagement in the skincare space?
It's not one size fits all, I think, is the biggest thing. So customers have very different replenishment cycles. Some customers replenish every 4 weeks. You know, Nikki replenishes, for example, every 8 weeks. So
big subscriber over here.
Big subscriber. I'm wearing U Beauty right now, my super tinted moisturizer. It's perfect.
I gotta pick this up.
But I think you just have to have flexibility in your subscription program is really the most important thing. So having the ability to change products, you know, delay delivery, skip a shipment, you know, and having that flexibility really does drive, you know, kind of that retention and re-engagement.
Yeah, I agree.
And like making it the easiest, right?
Yeah.
Like the easiest like path of resistance, right? So if somebody can change their frequency easily, if somebody can cancel the subscription easily. And there are a lot of brands that are like, I want to make this as hard as possible so somebody doesn't.
Dude. I know.
Customer, it's a pain in the ass.
I know.
And I won't shop with that brand again. Like, it's annoying.
I know. I mean, if you make it painful, they're not going to shop with you again. And sometimes like somebody just wants to pause their subscription just for a moment. Like, for instance, like, I'm going to Europe for 5 weeks, right? So it's like, I don't want to have any of my subscriptions on, because then the product is just going to sit there. But then if I go to the portal and I have asked like 50,000 questions, or I can't find the cancel button or the pause button, I'm just going to end up canceling it altogether because I'm just over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Recharge is great because they offer a lot of flexibility too.
Yeah. Customization.
Personalization. Well, I think the other thing as well that U Beauty, we did this exercise with AJ probably like 6 months ago, where we like dug into our subscription. It was like, you know, a lot of people select other for the cancellation reason. It's like, what is really other, right? It is the easiest thing to respond as a customer. I agree. But what does this mean, right? And like, we did this whole exercise where we're actually like digging through, and it's like, are these people maybe like getting too many emails from us and that's causing them to cancel? Are these people canceling because maybe they have too much product? Are they ordering multiple things off cycle? Like, we did this whole exercise where we started digging into actually like the reasons behind it and tried segmenting past that. And we started I think it was like probably a year ago that we did this, but we ended up building out like separate journeys based on cancel reasons to try to sort of like prevent the churn.
Yeah.
But it started as like one iteration like 2 years ago, and it's something that we iterated on over a long period of time. And I think like that's sort of like as a brand, how you can sort of like better the experience and prevent people from churning. And if they're going to churn, at least like you've given it your all.
Yeah, at least you gave it your all, right?
Yeah.
Going one step further on that though, like how did you do the exercise of like getting that additional data from those people that selected other?
I think we started like digging in because there was like an other, and then I think there was like a form fill section that like people could fill in. And it's all of that data that almost like that you don't want to mine through. Like, you know, because it's like what the response is. So it was like mining through that data and like looking through that. We also, the one thing I love about UBeauty that no other brand that we work with does this, but anytime a customer complaint comes through or a customer responds to customer service and it's about email or SMS, their customer service team forwards it to us and it's basically like, can you look into this customer? And we go through this exercise of, did they receive too many emails? Are they actually getting duplicate? Like, what is the issue? And like that alone helps us with sort of like making sure that everything is like streamlined and aligned the right way. But they're the only brand that does it. And I think like you have to care about the actual like customer journey.
Yes.
Which is what we were doing in that like
Amen,
subscription
sister.
exercise
Yes.
that got us there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's such a valuable point. I mean, granted, we're like sisters in this retention and CX space. I'm going to be honest with you because it's like this is literally what Nikki and I talk about a lot. But this is also just what I personally preach to everybody is like you have to care about the touch points in your customer's journey. And this is honestly a hot take, but I think we care so much about acquiring that customer and getting them into that subscription and you know, okay, great, I have that revenue in that moment, but then like we forget about the retention of that customer and what touch points that we're having conversations with them at. Now, are we annoying the shit out of them? Like, I don't know, you know?
If you look at the most successful brands out there, they're all very much customer centric, and that's really a philosophy that we live by, right? We have, for example, if a customer doesn't want product and we charge them and they're on subscription, we're going to take the return back. We want that best in class customer experience. And it's really important for us because at the end of the day, those customers are going to share it with their friends and we're going to just build the brand that way. So I think that having great customer experience and customer satisfaction is probably the most important thing for us as a brand.
Yeah, totally. And the point about the customer satisfaction isn't about just the metric of customer satisfaction. I think a lot of brands do this. They like look at like, oh, my CSAT is 4.6. I'm best in class, but that doesn't translate to that, you know? I'm curious just on like both ends for both of you, not on the cards here, but when you're starting working with a brand, right? Like let's pretend like UBeauty first day, right?
Yep.
What is the first thing you do when looking over a customer's journey?
I actually will go through the customer journey myself. I think that having that fresh set of eyes, and actually I always ask random people in my social group to go through the customer journey at UBeauty just because I want to learn about where the pain points are for that customer. So, you know, we actually do a lot of like user testing too, with net new customers or net new site visitors, basically, to understand where the pain point exists and where that friction point lies. Obviously, we look at the data, right? So we look at cart conversion, we look at all of these different metrics, but it's really important too to have kind of that fresh set of eyes and really they can identify a lot of pain points pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree. And then what about you what about you, Nikki, for like when you're starting
I liked the what about you.
I know. What about you? What about you, Nikki, for when you're starting with a client and just walking through that customer journey?
jokingly, I always tell people, like, have your mom shop the website, right? Like, your mom is like the lowest common denominator. Like, love you, mom, but like the worst sort of like techie person out there. So if like mom can navigate it, they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
But like, it's the same thing. We sort of like go on, we will go through, start filling out for email and SMS. What do those look like? Like, what is that funnel? What does that communication look like? And we start from there. And we do audits for all of our brands. So we start looking through like the triggers, like when are these things triggering? Are people getting too many emails? We look through the campaign cadence. Like, we audit some accounts where like people are sending 2 emails a day to every single customer. And I'm like, you think this equals more revenue, which is insane to me.
I know.
Equals more unsubscribes, but not more revenue. But that's sort of like how brands think. And so I think like putting yourself in their shoes, what is their ultimate goal? And then building a plan from there. Because obviously like our recommendation for You Beauty is very different from our recommendation from like another brand that we work with. Because of what the customers do on site, but it's also how it comes to us, right? Like somebody like You Beauty today that came to us, it's a very different You Beauty that came to us 5 years ago. You know what I mean? It's a very, their creative was different, what their end goals were. They only had one hero product. Like so it is very different. And I think like looking at it from that lens and like looking at who that actual brand is and the customer journey for you and your mom, like that's going to tell you a lot about what needs to be fixed.
Yeah, totally. I have a follow-up question to this, and I feel like I already know both of y'all's answers to this, but what do you think that, all right, let's say you have a big list. Let's just make up a number, 100,000 customers, okay, on your list. But then you're noticing that your leads or the lapsed customers there's a significant percentage of those users who are like just not engaging, not purchasing, right? What would your strategy be? I know it's a big question, but like, in my mind, I know what my strategy would be, but I'm curious about like, if these people are 180 days plus, would you kick them out of your list or would you keep trying to engage with them?
I think it depends.
Okay.
There's always like lead generation campaigns, which, you know, maybe you don't see the most success from those leads. I think like, for example, giveaways, right?
Yeah.
Customers sign up for giveaways just because they want the free product or they want, you know, whatever
free,
it might be. Yeah. But, you know, if it's for a customer that actually engaged with the brand, then I think we would probably continue to engage with them. I think there's strategies that you can use with lapsed customers, whether it be education around the product for further education, or whether it be, you know, maybe they need a promotion to incentivize them to complete that next purchase or first purchase. So I think it really does depend on the source of where that lead is coming from.
Agreed. Absolutely agree. What's your thought?
I agree with that. I think like it depends on where they come from. If you're picking them up from like a Good Morning America list, you know what I mean? Like most of the time those won't convert. And we know it, right? So like after you've emailed them for 180 days and they're still not doing anything, like is this worth killing your deliverability over? Probably not.
Right.
But if it's somebody that's like shown intent and is coming back to your website and even browsing but not making a purchase, like that's probably somebody that's worth keeping.
Absolutely.
But you haven't sent them the right type of messaging yet in order to get them to convert. I think when it comes to like prestige skincare too, or like more luxury items, or you're buying a car or like you're buying a mattress, people aren't going to make those more spontaneous purchases because it's more expensive, right? So like, and obviously You Beauty is not the equivalent of buying a car. That was probably a really bad example.
But luxury,
both very expensive, but like in their own right. But somebody that's like gonna buy like $168 resurfacing compound, they're not gonna come onto the site and be like, okay, yes. They're gonna wanna do the research and they're gonna wanna look. So like it might take a couple of views or something like that.
Right.
The other thing that we recommend that You Beauty does is like these evergreen campaigns. Like there are certain cross-sell or even evergreen campaigns that if somebody is coming to the site but you haven't gotten them to purchase yet, give them different offers, give them different education, and like you will find something that makes them purchase eventually.
Yeah, for sure.
But you don't need to email them all the time.
I agree with you. So all very interesting points, right? And I agree with you both of your strategies. And like, honestly, that's the way I would think about it too. But exactly, I think about where are they coming from? Where are they coming from and what is their behavior and how can we like position that messaging a little bit better to get them to like convert? But we've talked about so much about education. Like skincare is such an education-based product, right? How do you deliver education-based content without actually overwhelming your customer? Because I think sometimes like you could do so much of it, but then at what point is it just not hitting? And I guess, and I'm answering my own question, but I know it's positioning and messaging, but I'm just curious about like how you guys would both strategize that.
I think there's different types of customers. There's like the customer who's more well educated on skincare and maybe requires additional messaging, and they're going to engage with more, I guess, elevated content. Whereas you have maybe the new to skincare regimen customer who's really, you just got to keep it super simple with them. Here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. Here's what each one of those products do.
Yeah.
But definitely there's different types of customers and different personas that we have at UBeauty, and we target them differently and send different messaging to them.
Yeah. Well, one follow-up to that, and Nikki, I want you to answer that same question too, but one follow-up to that is like, what type of audiences do you have? Like, is it millennial? Is it boomer? Is it Gen X?
Yeah.
Gen Z?
Yeah, so our sweet spot is really kind of like that 35 to 55-year-old, more affluent.
Because we give a fuck about skincare, my friends.
I know.
I know. Literally, I'm
That's
like, me and Nikki, like, hey. Yeah.
Yeah, more affluent customer, because obviously our price point is a little bit higher versus traditional skincare brands.
Yeah.
And you know, that's really our sweet spot. And we do have some younger audiences that we get through, for example, TikTok and other social platforms, which maybe skew a little bit younger. But then, you know, we actually have older customers now coming through this Michelle Monahan campaign, because she's obviously a little bit older and more well recognized among the Gen X and, you know, millennial audience.
Yeah. Cool. I was just curious, you know. So going back to the question, right? Like, and also knowing the audiences, how do you approach that? Like, to over over-educate? I mean, I don't want to say over-educate, because there's like it can never not be enough, but like, how do you just not overwhelm somebody?
I think what we see a lot of brands doing that is not correct is they assume that like education means a lot of content in an email, a lot of copy, a lot of like heavy reading. Like, you have 3 seconds in an email to capture somebody. And so I think you have to really do a combination between like beautiful creative while still getting the messaging across in sort of like some visual aspect. And that's always like what we push to brands, is like, you have to take all of these words and translate them in some sort of like imagery, right? And some sort of like beautiful creative. The UBeauty creative team does a great job of this, a really good job. Like, I say this and like I am biased, but I'm not. The UBeauty creative team, they're insane. Like, the stuff that they come up with is incredible. And they're able to talk about Siren technology and like how the product works without basically using words. You know what I mean? Through like very beautiful visuals. And I think that's part of it, is like, you need to comb through and do both of those things together. And where brands fail is when they're like, I need to educate, so I need to put a ton of copy and like make this a novel.
Y'all. Okay. I know. Okay.
It's insane.
I literally, and it's not even a beauty product. Like, when I'm doing like my own audit of like a customer's experience journey, like I look at like emails and like SMS, and like sometimes these brands are like brands that need a lot of high education. Like, cause I work with a lot of like health and wellness, right? And the first thing I'm like, say is, nobody wants to read a novel in their email. Ain't nobody reading that, y'all.
No.
Give them a creative.
Yeah.
Right? And I always say this too, and I don't know if you guys share this same opinion, but you know, when you're doing anything, whether it's email, it's SMS, website, customer journey, like, it doesn't matter where it is, you always have to think for the visual learner, the written learner, and also the audible learner too, right? Because everybody's behavior is so different.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, when I said the audible portion, you know, one thing I do wish, an email, we could do like a live read of it, you know, like I know in like newsletters you can do that, but that would be like kind of a cool.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the future.
I know.
Yeah.
Shout out to whatever SaaS company's listening. Maybe do an audible
Maybe that's
email,
the future.
you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, staying on the same vein of customer behaviors, what are some customer behaviors or signals that help you anticipate that churn before it actually happens? Like, what's happening in your journey?
I think obviously we look at kind of customer lifecycle and look at how frequently they're replenishing. If there's customers who are ready to purchase, you can obviously use like a basic RFM to understand, you know, where a customer is and what the value is of that customer to you. But obviously we look at when they were last engaged with the brand, when they last engaged with emails, or, you know, I think that those kind of signals are really important.
Yeah. Do you ever look at like social behavior of like any of those analytics of like, I mean, I know it's really hard to be like, Jess Servion looked at your social post and did these things unless you have like a UTM. But do you ever take any of those things into
Yeah, in some ways we do. I mean, obviously we look at, like I said, the last time customers come to visit the site.
Yeah.
That's a really good indicator of if they're still engaging with the brand or if they're ready to purchase.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that signals like that are really valuable to us.
What do you think, Nikki? Like, just not even just beauty specific, but I'm just curious of like, what's your strategy?
We love a good RFM modeling. Like, if you can look at an RFM model, and it's honestly funny because when we do audits for brands, we do RFM models. And it's funny every time we like present the RFM model, like you can almost 100% of the time, like the brand, like a light bulb goes off, like, wait, where did you get this data from? And it's like, a lot of them don't know like the entire story. They're only looking at people that are purchasing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're not looking at people that used to and don't anymore, or people that are sitting there and have yet to purchase. So we like look at this RFM modeling and we break it up into 4 very simple buckets for you, right? Like these are people that are like high value, high frequency, low value, low frequency. Like we look at the whole cycle. And it's funny when you present it to a brand, they literally are so confused at what you're looking at because they don't look at it in the same way. So I think like a very easy exercise for any brand to do is just like do an RFM model and it will tell you a lot about your customer.
Yeah. Well, okay. So anybody who's is unfamiliar with RFM, what does the RFM stand for?
Recency, frequency, and monetary value.
Sorry, we probably should have said it.
I mean, you're like we know in this conversation, but yeah, totally. Y'all are actually the first people to ever bring up RFM on like when talking about retention, which is so funny to me.
Yeah.
Because like even in my mind, like I also like do some sort of like audit like that, not like about like email, more of like just user behavior, right? So anyway, that was a good tidbit. I'm gonna edit a little some of this out. I was just like, I just really loved that moment.
RFM models, they will tell you more than you know about your brand.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so important, just like not even about RFM models, right? Like just auditing your brand, like re-auditing it frequently.
Yes.
Like I would even say like almost every 6 months, because like going back to what I was saying, like consumer behavior changes. Like think about right now, the moment we're in right now, people are freaking out about tariffs, right? But 3 weeks ago, people were still spending more frequently. And then even maybe 3 months ago, election period, right? People were stopping to shop at like Target, like switching like behaviors and like where they're spending their money, and like with a bunch of companies. Not to get political, I'm just saying like that all of these shifts in society changes consumer behavior. And I think as brand builders, sometimes you get so insular and caught up in just what's happening within your brand that you forget to think about like the outside factors.
I agree with that totally. Like a lot of what is going on in the world will deem what is happening on your website or with your brand. And I think, it's really easy, I think right now, to get caught up in like the scariness of the tariffs. But you can't forget about your customers that are shopping today and like doing right by them, not necessarily like doing right by what your customer might be doing in 6 months from now.
Yeah, totally. So just switching gears, just talking. Oh, go
I
ahead.
think
So
one thing to
sorry.
just add to that, during these times of economic uncertainty, sometimes you have these customers who might be high AOV customers and maybe they're not purchasing anymore with you, or you see that there's a delay in kind of their purchase behavior. So you can shift to kind of focus more maybe on lower price point products, and really, utilize that to retain the customer still during these times of economic uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that approach, and I think there's just it's not even just economic uncertainty. It's like it's being really in tune to like everything that's affecting your buyer.
Yeah.
I mean, even thinking about like the audience that you're going after, that 30 to 55, right? Some of those women can also be new moms going through like that type of transition in life.
Yep.
Postpartum is very different, like for like your skincare routine and even like fragrances and like even just thinking about the things that you're putting on your body or ingesting your body, So like my point is like, yes, economic, of what we're talking about, like in the tariffs, but I also think just like thinking through everything that's happening to your customer and like kind of pre-planning for that in a way,
where they are in like their life journey.
Yeah. Life cycle.
Yeah. Their life cycle.
I know.
Life cycle.
I know. Okay. So switching gears just slightly, I want to talk about like growth and like future vision of You Beauty. How do you balance scaling your subscription program with maintaining a high-end brand experience specific?
Yeah, so we really stray away from discounting too much. We utilize subscription as really kind of the discount which a customer can receive on a consistent basis. Loyalty and rewards is also really important for us too. So we utilize both of those in tandem to kind of create the best-in-class subscription program for the customer, which is why we have such high stickiness, and Sticky really helped with that strategy too.
That's how it, like, even for You Beauty, like in your eyes, like how do you, or not even just You Beauty, like just a high-end brand, like how do you think about growth in the future?
Yeah, I think I love the fact that when brands do sort of like the only discount you can get is like through our subscription program. I think it helps maintain sort of like a luxury feel without feeling discounty.
Yes.
And makes it feel like the person that's going to invest in themselves and in your brand. It's a great way for them to sort of like get a discount. And You Beauty does a subscription sale twice a year that they like will add an extra discount or like put forward facing push their subscription, and it performs very well for them every single time that they do it, and their customers know that like this is when their subscription sale happens, and then you can sort of like carry on that subscription discount through the entire year while you're still on it. And that alone is a benefit for somebody to not cancel, right? Because like you got it during this time of year, you got the extra discount on top of it. And I think that's a really great way for luxury brands to still make it feel very luxury without feeling like you're offering the discount.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree. I mean, a strong discounting strategy in general for a high-end brand is like so important.
Yeah.
So important.
And in this day and age of price increases happening every single month, it seems like.
Or day.
Yeah, or every day. Yeah.
That's the era we're filming this one in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having kind of locking in the price, I think, is a really strong value proposition for the customer too.
Yeah. And I mean, this is why subscriptions are so important, right? Like we think about Black Friday, think about holiday time frames, and those selling points. But so I know you mentioned like you dropped fragrance recently, right?
Yeah.
But are there any other product innovations that you're excited about, like that are coming up, or that you can even share?
Spill the tea.
I know.
Spill the tea.
We have a really great product coming out at the end of this month. I don't know when this will be airing, but it's going to be...
It'll be out by the time this airs. So.
It will be out by the time this airs. It's our new SPF.
Cool.
And we're really excited about it. Like I mentioned, Michelle Monahan is one of our brand ambassadors, and she unfortunately had skin cancer. And so she's very much an SPF advocate, as you should be. I think everyone should wear SPF. if there's one product anyone should wear, it's SPF.
Yeah.
So
Literally, like, if I do nothing,
Yeah.
I'm always putting on an SPF.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, the sun will age you.
I know. And I'm trying not to age, y'all.
Same.
Yeah.
Well, we've hit the end of the road, my friends. Before we completely cut, though, AJ, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find us on ubeauty.com. We're also sold at every Blue Mercury door, Nordstrom's, Neiman's, Saks, Berghoff Goodman, Amazon.
Yeah.
If you're in the UK, Harrods, any luxury department store for the most part will sell you beauty. And we also have some exciting new distribution coming up soon. So
Great. Amazing. And Nikki, where can people find you?
StickyDigital.io. Yeah, come find us. We'll do a free audit for you. Knock on AJ's door, ask him how we're doing.
they're the best
your
in the
social
business.
proof.
They're the best in the
Social
business.
proof. He's our social proof.
Yeah.
StickyDigital.io.
Great. Well, I appreciate you both coming on, and thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.
Dang, we've made it to the end of the podcast and you're still here. So thank you so much for listening to Above the Fold podcast. For the best of this episode and every episode, be sure to follow us on Instagram and my YouTube channel. And for deeper dives on the secrets to brand success, don't forget to subscribe to my weekly newsletter, Sunday Postcards. All right, my dudes and gals, see you next week.